divorce from the company. She'd kept up her rent. She'd kept the house as well as she could. But the company wanted the land, and they would think of some excuse to evict her from out of that house, to cast her out onto the streets. But she was frightened of no one. "What do you want? What do you want?" "Come on, you know what we want." "I know you, William Evans' son," was her reply, "and I'm sure that your father would not be happy to know that the child that he raised would be here, roaming the streets, knocking upon the door, casting old women out onto the streets." "Well, that may as well be," William Evans' son said. "That may well be, as it seems to you. But you know that you need to pay your rent." "I'll pay the rent," she cried. She opened the door, and in her hand she had a walking stick with a pointed end. You varmint!" And I've got to tell you that William Evans, he stepped back a little as she waved that stick full in his face. "I'm not frightened of you, and if your father was still alive, he would tell you that you cannot do what you are doing. Enough is enough." Perhaps it was the determination in her eye that made him turn on his heels. "But I will be back," he shouted down the street. "I will be back." There was only one thing that she still had that was worth any money, and that was the bracelet that was now at her wrist. It had been given to her on their wedding day by her husband. But if it meant that she could stay in this house that was filled with all of her memories of her family, then that was exactly what she would do. Ebervale was very small. There were no pawn shops or banks. She knew that she would have to sell it to someone who was willing to give her the best price that she could. It nearly broke her heart the next day when she took it from off her wrist and handed it over. She could not believe that she had only got £1, 10 shillings and 6 pence for it. But that was almost like a king's ransom. And when William Evans Jr. came to her door again, he would not be able to say to her that she had not paid her rent, for she would reach into her pocket and she would throw it down into the mud, and he could pick it up if he wanted it. That night was like every night inside of a cellar, cold and dark, but still she had the comfort of the family Bible to read. And it was then that she heard that great and terrible knock upon the door. "William Evans, if that is you, then you shall taste the pointed end of my walking stick." She threw open the door, and there at her door stood a child. A child who looked like her child, her eldest son, the one that had gone far away, further than London or Birmingham, but had gone to Americas. But how could it be him standing at her door, now standing in front of her? For he was now 30 years older than this child there, but it looked, in face and form, every single bit like her own son. "Who are you?" Now she thought she was going truly mad through the want of food in her belly. "Who are you?" And before the child had a chance to speak, behind him there stood her daughter. "Ma'am, I don't like to see you like this. This is your grandson. And yes, he looks like our David, but he needs his grandmother to be close. Here." And her own daughter reached into the pocket at the front of her penny and pulled out the bracelet. "I bought this back. You should come and live with us. You can visit Deborah any time you want. You can come back to this place, and the memories will still be there in the street. But we want you to be happy with us. Tell my son, your grandson, all of the stories. Let him read the Bible with you. You'll be happy with us." She was nearly ready to say, No, but she knew the sense of what her daughter was saying to her. And in this case, the child became a mother to her. She would travel, not very often, all the way back to Ebba, but she would travel many times with her grandson by her side, as they would look at the names that were scrawled down of his uncles and aunts, of great uncles and grandparents that he'd never known. And inside of her heart, Ebba Vale was always there.